Hello everybody, I'm Mango Thunderslice, and this is Isla Spring Thunderslice. Space Panthers at the farmer's market, getting some tasty veggies for us, our little family, and yep, thought I'd make a video, short little video while Isla and I are hanging out. Had my CCW training yesterday, and even in California, if you're not a felon, you can still carry your firearm concealed if you have the proper cause and you live in the right county. Got a new Smith & Wesson M&P Shield 9mm. Pretty nice gun. Learned a lot about firearms yesterday, and just kind of realizing something, you know, is that I think I was kind of wrong about some of my assumptions with Anarchy and the elites, right? Is that ultimately there needs to be some sort of structure for humankind, right? And, you know, on a micro scale, that absolutely is best left to individuals and communities to decide as they see fit. But on a larger scale, you know, there is a need for greater cohesion and collaboration. And I don't know, I feel like I don't really resonate with the anarchist libertarian arguments anymore with regard to open borders and defending of, you know, unspeakable things on the internet as just free speech, right? But it's just, you know, there's a magic and miracle of life, and you know, I just feel, especially after completing my CCW training, I feel like an American. Like, yeah, I feel like CCW holders can, which for those of you who don't know what a CCW is, it's a concealed carry weapon permit, or carry a concealed weapon permit. It basically allows you to carry a loaded firearm as you move about your life, and yeah, basically be able to defend yourself and your family. And it's just so crazy that, you know, I feel like I'm now genuinely just a conservative libertarian, right? I do believe in as small as possible a government, but, you know, it doesn't necessarily make sense to me to just, you know, say it's all about anarchy and like that everyone in the world wants to be free and it's all just the elite keeping us down. The truth is now at this point, especially with the Trump phenomenon, it's not the elite that is keeping humankind down, right? It is basically people keeping themselves down. It is people buying into their own brainwash and their own, you know, narrative of weakness and victimhood and slavery. And that, the elite might try and promote that and, you know, put propaganda out there to get people thinking that way. But it's up to people to buy that lie. It's up to people to believe it or reject it. And if people believe the lie, then, you know, they're allowed to sell their lies, right? No one can say they can't sell their lies. It's just that we are never obligated to buy those lies. And, you know, I've just been trolling the left hardcore on Twitter. M Thunderslice, for those of you who'd like to follow along and play the twatter game. You know, from global warming, the fraud, it's hot a summer again, and so they say, oh my god, it's global warming, and then in the winter it's snowing, and they're like, oh my god, it's global warming. You know, to vaccines, right? You know, just having Isla's and how attentive she is. Like, she's been making eye contact with us since literally day one. Since the day she was born, she will look us in the eye. She's super attentive. We're figuring out the gas pains issue. It really comes down to a lot of Space Panther's diet. When she eats cruciferous vegetables or, you know, pepper or spices, right? Gas forming foods in her body transmits through the breast milk into Isla. So with Space Panther eating more of a, you know, kind of paleo to, you know, create the condition in Isla where she's able to digest more properly and be happy and not be, you know, crying as much and just be kind of a happy baby. And it's just, you know, there's something so magic about creating a human being. Like, I'm really, these words of these dumb liberals who told me before Isla was born, like, just don't expect to be happy. Like, you know, kids are cute and all, but don't expect to be happy. It's like, what is your happiness if having your own flesh and blood look up at you in the eye, like in a state of happiness and wonder, like, you know, what makes you happy? Like, what exactly do you want? You know, you want to go out to the club? You want to watch more violent movies? Like, what is exactly that you're missing out on? You know, that creating a new human life just doesn't do it for you, right? I don't know, man. I just totally don't buy. I left the liberal cult a long time ago, and, you know, came into, you know, anarchy, and I still believe in the anarchist ethos, right? I believe that, you know, in a long enough time frame, people are genuinely seeking more autonomy and sovereignty and freedom. But, you know, ultimately, America is the greatest country on the face of the earth right now because it's made of people who respect each other's freedom, where you can carry a concealed weapon in America, you know, to defend yourself. Like, hardly any countries in the world will allow you to do that if you're not a government agent, right? And it's just, I used to just talk a bunch of smack on America, but it's really a great place, and despite California and its communist, you know, bent. Well, what's up? She loves to bounce. Pretty much whatever is the issue, just more bouncing will solve it. See? Alright, so she was actually just hungry. That's why she was crying. Now Space Panther's back, and Isla's having a nice lunch at the Corova Milk Bar, Casa de Leche, a little lactarian that she is. And yeah, basically just wanted to take a minute to finish out that point that I was talking about, you know, what my error was in being an anarchist, and at least where I was wrong. Being intellectually honest with myself is precisely my own projection of my own will to freedom and my own competence and my own intelligence onto the whole of the human species. And, you know, again, I think there's something cosmically innate to that drive. But what I was wrong about is that it is in thinking that when everybody just hears the message of freedom, they'll all just wake up, right? And they'll be libertarian anarchists as well, and we'll all go and abolish the state and regulate ourselves, and it'll all be hunky-dory. But that is a grievous error. I realize it is wishful thinking to think that everyone is going to be as intelligent as I am, as responsible as I am, as capable of discerning bullshit as I am. And, you know, again, it's like, you know, there's this idea in anarchy that we can regulate ourselves, and when you have a sufficiently intelligent and moral and rational people, that is by default, that's how the framers designed America, right, was federalism, right? We have this patchwork of laws in the United States, right? CCW laws are a perfect example of that. And it's you know, we do have the ability to localize, and it's not really the elite that's ultimately stopping us from effectively utilizing that structure. It's us. It's the people who, you know, many of which are very brainwashed, right? And it's people's unwillingness to be intellectually honest with themselves or anyone else that is causing this problem. And again, to sound like a traditional Republican and conservative, it's really just these neo-Marxist liberals that are the problem, right, in holding this country back, and why I think that they are good for and due for a walloping in November, a big red wave, so we can get Justice Kavanaugh in there and wait till Ruth Bader Ginsburg finally you know, sheds her mortal coil and opens up another space on the court for another genuine conservative for Trump to appoint. I mean, it's really good. That matters so much. We'll have the court for the next 50 years, right? We'll have decisions probably regarding vaccination. We'll have decisions regarding national reciprocity for CCWs, which means that if you get a CCW in one state, it's recognized in all the states. That would be tremendous and an ultimate death blow to the anti-gun lobby, the maniac, what about the children crowd. Like, that would be so awesome to see that. And it's totally possible as long as people just show up in November and push this thing a little bit over the edge so that the Senate has the votes, right? They got 51, but one of them is John McCain, who is a turd, and he needs to shed his mortal coil as well, along with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, in order for this country to move forward into a better state. And, you know, it's all inevitable. Progress in the true sense, not in the progressive sense, is inevitable. We don't want to progress away from the American founding. We want to progress through those ideals, right? We want to achieve a better world for us and our children through application of liberty and basically being sovereign in and of yourself. And, you know, again, the message of liberty is still totally valid. I'm still a libertarian. I'm just not an anarchist, right? At least I wouldn't necessarily self-apply that term because, you know, my job is a compliance manager. It's funny being an anarchist and, you know, being a compliance manager, and it's kind of like, you know, in one sense, my credit wasn't that good, you know, I had just, you know, blown off this credit card that I racked up back. It still wasn't very much ultimately, but still I just said, you know, the hell with the banks, I'm not going to pay this. And so I've been weighing down my credit for several years, and, you know, in my job I'm like managing the payments and stuff for the businesses that I work with, and I realized, like, I know how to build credit, I know how to pay bills on time, I'm just not doing it in my own life for some reason. And similarly, you know, just my job is to navigate all this world of permits and compliance, and, you know, it's such a major pain in the ass, a total constant pain in the ass. But ultimately the result, you know, of all this pain and inconvenience is that the consumer is getting a better product, right? You know, cannabis, like, I can't even imagine how much horrible, you know, stuff has been on, you know, weed that I've smoked in the past, right? And because it was a black market and people could put on there whatever they want and say it's organic and nobody knows, right? But now actually, because of the state requiring it, you know, all the product has to be tested, and so, you know, it's like batches get rejected, and that's, you know, that's the regulation of the state, you know, infringing upon private business. But in the end, the customer gets a cleaner product, a healthier product that actually gives them what they're looking for without the negative side effects of, you know, of a pesticide or something. On that note, Monsanto just got sucker punched and basically had to pay out $300 million to the groundskeeper of a school, I believe, I forget where the school was, because he alleges that the Roundup that he was spraying, right, the pesticide, gave him non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And basically Monsanto's expert witness basically cracked on the like during the trial and admitted that his math was totally, utterly wrong, and basically that he had just been paid off by Monsanto to just kind of massage the data. And, you know, again, it's so funny, and these liberal science cheerleaders of science are like, you know, oh, this is why scientists don't trust the courts to adjudicate science. It's like, oh yeah, because a court isn't the right place for, you know, to assess the verity of damage claims from one party against another. We should let the medical bureaucracy take care of that and just dictate the truth to us without challenge. Get out of here. I mean, it's like, this is again the thing. It's not the elite that's keeping people in a state of mandatory vaccination. It's not the elite that's keeping people eating, you know, shitty food. It's not the elite that's making people want socialism. Like, they might put out their propaganda, but still, people have to be dumb enough to eat that shit up, right? They have to be willing to be lied to and willing to lie to themselves. And it's not, the elite can only help that process. They don't create that process, right? So it's up to us to know the truth. It's up to us to be responsible and to find the truth. And, you know, there ultimately has to be an authority, right? Again, with the anarchist thing, you know, you think that it can all just be voluntary regulation and, you know, that it'll all just work out. But, you know, even with a centralized, you know, regulatory structure, you still have the hijacking of it by these medical cartels and producing a bunch of BS science to validate their own product, just like the tobacco industry did, right? You know, you can't necessarily just treat, you know, the authority as legitimate because somebody, you know, gave them an alphabet soup letter agency. But I don't know, I'm just kind of rambling, but it's just, the point is that there is at some point a need for authority and the force to back up that authority, right? And that is why I would say I'm more of a libertarian conservative now than an anarchist, because I do actually believe in the legitimacy of that hierarchy. I just actually believe in holding it to account. Whereas as an anarchist, I just kind of wanted to burn the whole thing down. Now I actually want to, you know, help the process of holding that authority structure to account. Trump is a major part of that, but again, with this greater cultural swing, this genuine spiritual revival happening on the right, casting aside, you know, the neoconservative warmongering aspect and just getting back to America first, and let's rebuild ourselves, let's know the truth and be sovereign and take care of ourselves. Meanwhile, the left has degenerated into a point where, you know, again, the moderate liberals are walking away because they're not hateful, bile-spewing Marxists, and the hateful, bile-spewing Marxists have now taken over the party and become the default platform, right? There's no platform on the left. There's no equivocation, right, between, oh, left and right are equally bad, oh, the elite are just conning us. Like, you know what? I used to agree with that. And again, they're still playing their own shenanigans, but it's up to the people, right? It's, you know, it doesn't matter what George Soros does. If we are sovereign, we will know the truth and we will cast that bullshit aside, right? And that's what we should focus on, is the genuine culture war, right? Is actually, you know, not just, you know, hoping that it'll all fix itself down the line, but taking that station and actually battling against the forces of darkness, the children of the lie, as Jesse Lee Peterson likes to say. You know, I want to help people become smarter, I want to help people become more free, but it is totally asinine to suggest that everyone on this planet is ready and willing and able to be in that state right now. And that is why anarchy is kind of at least in the short term, it's a delusion. It's just kind of a pipe dream, but in the long term, again, decentralization is the name of the game. But, you know, for people who are so committed to that, you know, philosophical principle in abstraction, that they're unwilling to partake in the genuine culture war going on right now and to push back against the Marxist left, but keep wanting to bring them back into the fold and convince them, they're not going to be convinced. They're fundamentally irrational people. They think of themselves as scientists, but they're actually committed to a narrative, right? Global warming, does science support global warming anymore? No, it doesn't. In fact, it never did. It's always been a narrative. But because these people are basically, they only believe what the media tells them, they think, again, they're scientists and they're reading the data. They're not reading the data. None of the models have succeeded. The planet is not warming. If anything, we're about to go into a mini ice age as a result of the grand solar minimum and the sun quieting down. And it's just, it's ever more obvious. It's like a heat wave in London. They're like, oh my God, global warming, right? And, you know, with this whole vaccine thing, they've detected glyphosate, right, which is in Roundup in the vaccines, right, in the MMR vaccine at a level of 2.6 parts per billion. And granted, the study, or at least the screening that was done to show that, was not the you know, most precise form of analysis, right? We need like a gas chromatograph or a high pressure liquid chromatograph to really get those data about, you know, the precise glyphosate levels in vaccines. But again, the medical cartel insists there's no glyphosate in the vaccines. They think that vaccine salts are not carcinogenic, right? And taking aborted fetal cells, right? And it doesn't even give you immunity, right? If you actually got measles, you'd have immunity to measles for the rest of your life. These kids who all get the measles, you know, outbreaks, it's like they're all vaccinated. And they, you know, and then there's millions of adults out there who didn't get their booster shot. So they're the ones, you know, who are really the risk in this population, if anyone, right? It's because we're trying to replace God, we're trying to replace nature with this artificial matrix that is not capable of replacing God and nature, and it never will be. It's just a simple fact. Liberals and cheerleaders of science, they just don't get it. They really think that they can be God and that there's no need for a God, there's no need for, you know, a collective conscious entity and spirit. But again, they're so wrong, and you know, it's fun to me to just troll them on Twitter. Again, mthunderslice, at mthunderslice, if you want to play along in the Twitter game, trolling the left. And, you know, Trump is the greatest president in American history. It's amazing to see how many people are showing up to his rallies. It's like freaking hundreds of thousands of people, tens of thousands of people. It's so many. And the media, again, is just on this little neo-Marxist, you know, shit-kicking spree. Oh, we're the enemy of the people. We're not the enemy of the people. And meanwhile, like, you know, Facebook, Apple, Google, and Spotify, otherwise known as fags, are, you know, basically shutting down Alex Jones, right? And I'm not super gung-ho on Alex Jones, right? He's Alex Jones, but the fact that they banned him is just so pathetic, and it's only going to backfire on them, just like all of this. Just like when they brought out the term fake news, it's all going to backfire on them. And so that's it, you know, lose the abstraction, lose the hubris, lose the idea that you're controlling the universe and that your conception of science and your knowledge is the same as the objective reality. Because there's a lot of different people on this world, and we can build a free society, but we got to be honest with each other, and we've got to actually be willing to speak the truth and not be afraid to hurt people's feelings. All right, I don't give a shit about anybody's feelings at this point. I'm taking care of my wife and my child, and that's what's up. I'm gonna keep you know, making my money and, you know, building my future, and it's all good. And like Jordan B. Peterson says, before you go out and try and fix all of society and all of its ills, just set your own house in order, right? Make your freaking bed, clean your room, right? You know, do what you can in your own little sphere to make life better, and that is worth so much more than all this leftist claptrap about fixing the environment, stopping overpopulation. Oh, we gotta mandatory vaccinate the people because they're too dumb to know what's right for their own child, right? The hubris that people have in telling these parents that they're just dumb and wrong and it's just an anecdotal evidence, when their child is just like Isla, super cognizant and happy and making eye contact, and then they give them the shot and they never see their kid again, right? Their eyes glaze, they start banging their head against a wall, right? And they regress, they retard, right? Their development becomes retarded, right? And it's extremely sad. Like, that is so horrifying to me to think about, of if, like, we gave the vaccination schedule in our own ignorance, like most parents, you know, or not even most parents, people are waking up, but those inculcated into the medical delusion, 73 vaccines, you know, 73 doses of, what, 16 vaccines, you know, before they're even 2 years old. It's a joke. It's garbage. The leftist paradigm is completely fraudulent and false, and I've got no problem being the guy to just call it out and, you know, not give in to this shit anymore. Because it's all good, and that's what's going. We got God on our side. America's the greatest country in the world. Make America great again. And yeah, if anybody's got a problem with that, you know, whatever, man. Feel free to argue with me in the comments below. It's all good. I still appreciate the anarchists. I still appreciate the leftists and the liberals whenever they're willing to actually have a conversation. It's just that they're actually authoritarian communists at this point, and they don't want conversation. They want to impose their dumbass ideas by force, right? And that's not going to happen, because people are waking up, and we're going to take this power structure, this hierarchy, and we're going to make it accountable. And that's what's going to happen. That's what is happening. And god damn, I'm just so happy Trump is president. Yes, and I'll see you guys next time. Hope you're having a great week. Cheers.